You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy M., where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy M.
Episode 54, Let Go with Sherry Samuels. I'm super excited for you to meet Sherry Samuels of Chrysalid Transformations. She's a certified life coach, writer, and workshop leader, and she's on today's Brave Girls episode. She tells her story of how she supports women and teenage girls connect to their inner voice and trust themselves. She shares how she teaches what she's learned in her dark moments down in the rabbit hole, as she calls it, and how she committed to herself and learned to let go. She helps her clients open the door to their inner voice and start living a life of purpose. A check-the-box girl, Sherry talks about how this mentality did not serve her and why talking about mental health issues is so taboo in her community. She had a get-it-together moment when her mom passed that led her down a very slippery slope before she started working with her coach, and then she became a coach. When she got to the place of allowing herself to breathe and be curious, she was able to transform who she was in the world and begin to share her gifts. I love Sherry's advice on why you need to look in the mirror every day and tell yourself that you love yourself. We talk about how self-love is the foundation for being able to show up as your best possible version. We talk about the importance of journaling, meditating, listening to music, and having a faith practice. She talks about being playful to stay connected to herself and how she continues to find opportunities to be in the moment. I love all of the wisdom that Sherry shares on this episode, to include having an accountability partner, doing mirror work, and surrounding yourself with empowered, like-minded individuals. I hope you enjoy our conversation and take inspired action to invite and bring more play into your daily life. Sherry's an amazing brave girl, and she shares her story of the bravest thing she's ever done and what she learned from this experience, and why you always have to be true to yourself and learn to let go. So here we go. Meet my friend Sherry and learn how to become a brave girl just like her.
So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Today, I'm really excited because I have Sherry Samuels on the line. Sherry's a certified life coach, workshop facilitator, and writer. So I instantly connected with her just through her bio. So I met Sherry through another podcast guest, and so I'm just so excited to hear what she has to say today. So welcome to the show, Sherry.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you got to be a certified life coach and the work that you're doing out in the world.
So my journey to coaching was kind of interesting, or to me anyway. I used to work with kids who had brain tumors, and I was doing that for a long time, and I got to a place where I was feeling really overwhelmed and just stressed out. And when in that process, I decided to start working with a coach myself. And in our work, she suggested that I go through a certification program. And I was like, whoa, no, we're not helping people anymore. I can't keep doing this. Like, it's too much. But I ended up doing it, and I learned how to support people in a way that is healthy both for them and for me. And so then I turned something that I've always been able to do, which is connect with people easily. And really, I've always been curious about people's stories. So I've turned that into the work that I do and just being able to really help people and be more supportive.
Right. And do you have like a specific type of client that you work with?
So most of my clients are women or teenage girls. And we do a lot of work around helping them connect to their inner voice. Like, that's what I do. It's really, when we are connected to our inner voice, we are at our best, and really understanding who we are and where we're going, and really getting to this place of trusting ourselves. And I guess it's been my journey. And so it's easy for me to translate into what I do with my clients.
So talk a little bit about your journey, and was it at one point in time that you didn't trust yourself, or you weren't connecting to your inner voice that really kind of led you?
Yes, like Most of my childhood and into my adulthood, I didn't trust myself. And I was doing a lot of what I call going into the rabbit hole. And I would get lost. And I was good at putting on a show and kind of like dancing my way through things and kind of like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And inside I was falling apart. And there would be times when I would just think about like, oh my goodness, like if I just drove off this bridge right now, nobody would know, nobody would care. And it would just be over and I would be able to go on, or life would go on for everybody else. And I wouldn't have to feel this pain anymore. And then I would come out of it and I would be like, oh, like here's Sherry again. And then I would go back into that dark place. And so I had to really get to this place of saying like, I don't want to be in the rabbit hole anymore. And it was comfortable. It was so comfortable because that's what I knew. But on the other side, it was scary because I'm just like, I don't know what this other not in the rabbit hole place is. What am I going to do? What is this going to be like? Are people going to judge me? What are they going to think? And I decided one day when I started working with the coach and just through all of that and even going through the certification program, I started to really let go of all of the thinking about the what ifs. Am I going to be judged? Am I going to be, or are people going to say this about me? Are they going to say that? It was really, it's time for me to just commit to myself and to heal and to grow.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like sometimes what we teach is what we had to go through.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that as you work with these teenage girls, they're in that place where they're not connecting to their inner voice, or they don't know that they need to make that decision to not stay in the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a safe place. Like the rabbit hole feels safe, and it feels like, it's interesting because it feels safe, but it feels unsafe, but we don't know how to get out and we don't know what it's going to be like outside of it. So it's like, okay, well, I'll just stay here and I'll make do. I'll figure out how to live and be in this place, whether it feels authentic or good or not. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. And I was always really good at doing what I was supposed to do.
So you were like a check the box girl.
Oh, I was absolutely check the box. And I feel like I checked the boxes so much because it kept me from being seen, and it kept me out of trouble. And, my mom, God rest her soul, she struggled a lot with depression, and she wasn't officially diagnosed. She didn't go to doctors and so on and so forth. But I would say growing up, probably 9 to 10 months out of the year, she was really struggling emotionally. And so if I was checking the boxes and doing everything that I was supposed to be doing, then that was one less thing she had to worry about. I was one less thing she had to stress about. And if I did something that upset her, it would kill me. And so I was just like, let me just make sure that I'm checking the boxes and doing the right things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I have, I've heard that in the African-American community, dealing with mental health issues is not something that you do.
No, never.
So talk a little bit about that and how you made a different choice.
It's very taboo in the African-American community. And, when I think about my family and the things that my family has gone through, just, when I think about my mom and my aunts and my grandmother and those things, like we all should have been in therapy. We all should have been seeking help, but it's not one of those things that you do because, again, there comes all kinds of judgment with that. And several years ago, I wrote something, and it was about my mom, and I called it Midwestern Storm Shelter, because my mom was always in this place of, I learned it from my mom. I learned how to be great outside and to go inside and just be like, you can fall apart, but nobody is supposed to know what's going on in there. And, the thing is, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And that is very much what happens in a lot of African-American in the community, like in our families, like that's what happens. Like what goes on in our house stays in our house. And then you go out and you do what you're supposed to do, but you don't talk about what happens in here out there. And you don't go seeking help for things because what are people going to say? What are people going to do? What are they going to think? And we don't want any of that. And so we just stayed in our house.
Right.
We kept everything where it was supposed to be.
Right. And continue the suffering.
Exactly.
So what was the pivot point where you just said, I got to make a different decision? Was there like an event, or the pain just got so hard?
So
for you,
the pain, it was years of like the pain, like periods of pain getting so hard. It started probably so I was 19 when my mom died. And that was, okay, Sherry, you have to grow up now. Like you really have to figure out.
Get it together, girl.
Yes, you have to get it together. And so I figured out how to get it together enough to survive. And in years and years of doing that, it got to a place where by the time I was in my early 30s, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was rocking and shaking. Like I was just like, it's too much. I can't come out of the sadness as quickly as I used to. I didn't move through things as easily as I used to. And I said, you know what? Like I started working with a therapist, and shortly thereafter that I started working with a coach. And so I was doing it all so that I could get myself in a better headspace, mentally, emotionally, and just really start taking care of myself.
Yeah. And I think that once you do recognize that you need a support system and you need coaching, mentoring, advice, medical attention, like all of it, to get you where you really want to go. And so I would imagine that as you're coaching, especially the teenage girls, I keep coming back to this, they're living in a world that, and we talked about this a little bit before the show came on, about social media, and everybody's putting their highlight reel out there. And you know, statistics are showing now that there's so much higher levels of anxiety and suicide and all of those things. So what are some of the messages that you try to get to people at a younger age so that they don't have to suffer as long?
Yeah. So it's really about getting to that place where you can just allow yourself to breathe, and being really curious and being okay with being curious. The one thing growing up, I was always very curious, but it wasn't acceptable for me to be curious. So when you're asking too many questions, you want to know too much, like just Sherry, be quiet. And so it's not just when I work with teenage girls, I'm also working with their parents and helping them create a space where they can start to undo some of those stories, some of those old things that this is how I'm parenting. I'm parenting from a place of hurt, and I don't even realize it. And so when we start to have those conversations, so I'm not only talking to the teenager about how to be curious and open and really be compassionate with yourself and say, okay, you know what? I made a mistake. Let's see how I can recover from this. How can I move on? And really talking through situations very specifically about, okay, well, this happened, but this is how you can move forward the next time. This is what we can do different. And what are we learning from it? Always looking for these opportunities to learn from the situation, and allowing parents to have the space to say, you know what, I made a mistake. Because I think as parents, you always want to be perfect. There is this expectation, this need to be perfect so that you don't, quote, mess up your kids. But you don't have to be perfect. We're all human. And when your teenage daughter can see that you're human, that you make mistakes and that you can own that, then they're better able to say, you know what? All right, I messed up on that test, or I blew that thing. And so now I can move on. I can talk to my parents about it. The goal is to create these spaces where communication becomes easier, and there's less judgment and on either side. Because really a lot of times with parents, what happens is they're getting upset with their kids, but it's not really them being upset with their child. They're upset with themselves for something. And it's a reflection. So it's not about the child. So also helping the child to understand, okay, maybe this is where your mom is coming from. Maybe this is where your dad was coming from, and not focusing on this thing. And then there's the friends, and you think about, okay, well, where was your friend coming from? And maybe this is what they're dealing with, or maybe they don't know how to express to you what they're really feeling or thinking, and getting stronger in that place so that when you come into social media and you're watching all of these different things, all of the highlight reels, you can become less focused on that. What are some other ways that I can not be focused on how many friends I have on Facebook or how many likes I get on Instagram or who's watching my Snapchat video or whatever the case may be. So there are all of these different things coming at you. All right, you know what? Maybe I just need to, like, I'm okay being who I am right now in this moment.
Yeah, I think it's hard enough being who I am now in this moment without social media and without the internet. I mean, the internet, it's like it's got its good and its bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's allowed us to, like I say, it's democratized the world, right? And it's leveled the playing field on so many levels. I mean, I would have never met you. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. Yeah. We wouldn't be having this conversation. People wouldn't be able to listen to the podcast, all of that. But it's just getting people back to what you said about connecting back to the inner voice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we're not really taught how to do that. No. And a lot of what you're talking about, we haven't been taught how to do.
No. And it's because it's scary. Like, what is this whole idea of really being connected to myself? And it feels selfish. It feels selfish to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on making sure that I am okay. But, people talk about it all the time. What do the flight attendants say? Put your oxygen mask on first. And if we're putting ours on first, then we are able to be better in the world and help people and do the things. We are really able to move into our purpose when we can breathe. When I couldn't do anything for anybody, I could, but it wasn't in a healthy way. And it wasn't efficient or really supportive because I couldn't breathe. And so there was only but so much I could do. But then when we're able to breathe and really hear ourselves and trust ourselves. And, I still struggle, and I stand in the mirror every morning and say, I love you. I stand in the mirror every morning and say, I believe in you, because that makes a difference. Because if you don't feel that for yourself, you can't give it to anyone else in a way that's really meaningful.
Amen. I totally agree. I think you have to have that self-love as your foundation.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to get to the higher level where you can serve other people if you haven't worked through your own stuff.
Exactly.
And the best coaches are the ones that continue to work on their personal growth and development.
And that's it. And I always tell people, as long as you're living, you're going to be dealing with stuff. You're going to be working through it. And that's great, because that means you're still alive and you still have another day ahead of you. So woohoo, like I have another day. But
exactly.
There's always going to be something. And I am determined to try to stay aware of it. And sometimes I have misses, sometimes I win, and sometimes I don't. And it's still, I look for the opportunities to learn from all of it.
Yes, I think that's a big part of it. I think self-awareness is part of it. And I think being open to receive whatever lesson you have to learn is really, really critical. And it sounds like you've done a lot of that work, and now you're able to bring that to your clients on an individual basis, group basis, workshop basis,
Exactly. And one thing that it's really important to me, and it's really important to me to make sure that I'm being transparent with my clients, because when you feel like you are the only one, then it's much more challenging to move through stuff that feels challenging. For the longest time, I was probably early 20s, like 22, 23. And I met someone whose mom had died when she was 19. And she was now in her 40s. And I looked at her and I said, oh my God, you're still alive? Like, and just that she was making it. She was okay. And she was happy and she was working and she felt good about life. And I was like, oh, so it's possible. And so when you know that it's not just you, when you're not alone in whatever it is, then you can really say, okay, you know what, maybe I can take one more step. And it doesn't have to be like 10 steps, just take one more. And then we can come back together and figure out how to get to the next one.
I agree. My coach always says, take the next logical step. Mm-hmm. And even if you can't see it, you have to believe that it's possible.
Yep.
And so that's a hard thing to get to the point where you're like, well, I can't see it. Like in your case, you actually saw somebody physically that had made it and you were like, wait, that's possible?
Yeah.
But like sometimes you might not have that physical evidence. And so you have to have that faith that belief
Yes.
that the universe is going to work with you, and you've got to collaborate and really do your part.
Exactly. And I really do believe that the universe is always going to deliver something that's going to show you. It could be like we have to be listening, but there's always going to be something that comes to just let us know, okay, you can go ahead and take that next logical step and go there. Like, you have to keep moving, but I'm going to keep sending something. There's going to be something that comes, like some message, some sign, something that says, okay, you can keep going. You can do this.
Right. So what are some of your practices in order to keep your spirits high, motivated, so that you can then mirror that back to your clients? What are some of the things you do?
So I journal every morning. Let me say I journal most mornings, probably at least 5 times a week. I journal. And I meditate every day, at least 8 minutes. I have a thing, like I have it set so that I can, 8 minutes of just like being really quiet and breathing and just trying to just settle into the day. My faith is something that's really important to me. And I think sometimes when people think about faith, they think like, oh, well, you have to go to church every day and you have to be reading the Bible or you have to be doing certain things. It's really about me. For me, it's about believing in something greater than myself and trusting that greater thing is right here with me. And I can lean on that stronger thing when I'm not feeling so strong or when I am feeling strong, but just always remembering that. I love music. And so I think it's important, like I have playlists for everything. And so I think it's really important. The other week I was working and a song came on and I just decided to get up and start dancing around the office because that's what I needed to do. And so that's one of those things for me too. It's really important for me to be playful with things and allow myself to, as adults, we don't get in touch enough with our inner child. And we don't allow ourselves, we're so busy adulting, we don't allow ourselves to play. Play is mandatory for me in order for me to just stay on top of who I am and really being connected to that place. And it's really just having connections with people that are empowering. I have accountability partners. I have friends who are really focused on helping me stay on my grind, as I say. And so they want me to be successful. And it's important for me to surround myself with people that are going to push me, because there are times when I feel very much like I want to find that rabbit hole and I want to just stop. And when I do that, like I feel a total difference. When I don't meditate, when I don't do my journaling and the things that I need to do daily, I feel it. I feel the unraveling happening. And so I have to get back on the horse. And one really, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's the mirror work is so important to me. So the affirmations and really looking at myself in the eyes and telling myself that I am amazing and beautiful. And you do that when you don't feel it, when you don't feel amazing, when you feel weak or just done with everything, but really still doing it anyway, because you have to. It's a have to for me.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think meditation is very important. I try to do gratitude practice in the morning and at night, and focusing on your breath in that time that you're going to set aside. I think journaling is fantastic. I think that allows you to get your creative expressions out from your heart onto paper. Yep. There's something about the heart and your hand writing it.
Yep.
I think faith, the people that I know that have the strongest faiths, and it's not about going to church. It's about knowing, just like you said, that there's something greater and connecting back to that. I love music too. I've been a dancer since I was a little kid. So true confessions, before this podcast, I put some music on and I danced.
Oh,
so I knew we were
connected.
Totally. I also have an accountability partner, and I think that is amazing to keep you on track. I think surrounding yourself with the right people is totally what you need to do. I love mirror work as well. I've taken Louise Hay's courses, and I think that is amazing. And I think the importance of play. So I hope for our listeners, if they're not doing any of these things, these are some ideas that maybe they can bring into their daily life that aren't difficult, that don't take up a lot of time, that you can just easily integrate. And I agree, your body will talk to you in ways that you will feel it. You can feel it in your body.
Exactly. And I think, sometimes people think like, oh, well, meditation, I don't know, it's just too much. Like that they're focused on, oh, well, my brain has to be quiet. And journaling, like you're focused on, oh, well, I have to write the right things and it has to be perfect English and all of these different things. But I think it's really important for people to just take the time to find what works for them.
Yes.
And really, I think one of the most important things, they're all important, but play, like I said, is so huge. And if we just take the time to say, what did I like to do when I was a kid? What kinds of things did I like to do? And just spend 10, 20, 30 minutes doing that. And just allow yourself to just really be in it and be in the moment. And then, later, if that thing is basketball and like later you have the aches and pains, you'll deal with that later. But like you've allowed yourself to just get into something that really feels good to you and connect to that place that felt free. Because when we're kids, we feel free and we are curious and wanting to do anything and everything.
Yeah. One of the things I liked to do as a kid was ride my bike.
Mm-hmm.
I was bike. And so I ride my bike at the beach. I ride my bike in my neighborhood. Like I love riding my bike because it reminds me of being a kid when I could just hop on my bike and ride around the neighborhood with my friends and play. And, we used to pitch baseball cards because I grew up in a neighborhood of all boys. Okay. So I like had to hang, right? I had to learn how to do and I have the most amazing baseball card collection, like little known fact about Tracy M.
Nice.
And I told my husband, I'm like, I'm sure there's somebody famous in my baseball card collection that I didn't even know. But I would take my allowance and I would go to the 7-Eleven and I would buy Topps baseball cards because you had to have like a whole stack of these baseball cards to pitch against this like concrete porch and then if they stood a certain way you got so many points. It was, but I think about my childhood and some of the things that I like to do, so I think you're right.
Yeah When we connect to that place, it really, if you just think about if watching little kids before they start to get to this place of feeling like, oh, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, but there's so much freedom and they laugh from their belly and they don't care about it. They're just in it and they want to enjoy every moment. And that's when we can be in that place, that's beautiful. It's so freeing and empowering to say, you know what? I'm just going to play. I'm just going to enjoy this moment. And even if we're doing our regular work, but we're just allowing ourselves to invite the play into it a little bit and just enjoy it, just have some fun in it, make it fun some kind of way.
Yeah. So my finale question is always, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done and how does it inspire you today?
So it's, that question is very interesting. And I wonder, probably challenging for some people. When I think about the bravest thing that I've ever done, there are two things that come to mind, but the one that stands out to me right now is coming out to my dad. And my dad is Jamaican and he is, I love him. I adore him. We haven't always had the best relationship. It's been up and down, but we have grown to really be connected and bonded. And now my wife, he calls her his daughter too. And it's really sweet to see how things have unfolded, but taking that step to just come out to him there's always there's a coming out and then another coming out and then another coming out. It's a journey. And so, right. But to do that, to be able to have that conversation with him. And it was funny. I decided I was going to go home and my brother, I didn't know at the time, or I wasn't completely sure, but my brother had already told my dad. But so he had kind of settled into the idea. But when I got home to tell him, I was just I'm going to come home and I'm going to tell my dad and we're going to sit down and have this conversation. And he said, all right, let's go to dinner. And I'm just all right, okay. And it felt like it felt like love in a way that I hadn't felt from him before. And he just wanted me to be happy. And all he kept saying was, all I want you to do is be happy. And when I told him that we were going to get married, and he was just like, all right, are you happy? And I said, yes. And he said, all right, what am I going to wear? What do you want me to wear? And so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, like that. It took a lot. It took a lot for me to get to that place with him. But it was, when I did, it just, yeah, it changed our relationship. And now it reminds me to just not worry about what anyone else is going to think, but to be true to myself. And that's what matters most. And the people who are meant to be there will be there. And those who aren't, they won't. And that's fine too.
That's beautiful. You're so fortunate. You're so fortunate that he just embraced you with love. You really are. You really are. And, you know, it had to feel like a weight was lifted off of your shoulders.
Yes, it did. And it wasn't, I didn't have to hide. I didn't have to pretend to be, because I was, again, like I was used to pretending. Like I knew how to pretend. And, you know, I was at a point in my life where pretending wasn't who I could be anymore. And so it's just like, well, I have to be honest with him. And allowing myself to be in that place and to be so embraced. And I recognize that so many people don't have that same story. And I can't imagine what that must be like, and the pain that those kids, that those young people feel. Mm-hmm. But then I also recognize that for my dad, that there's a certain, like, there were dreams and ideas that he had for me that are different than what they turned out to be, but that has to be okay. And when I decided to tell him, I had decided that, you know, my life isn't about his dreams and expectations, it's about mine. And so we embraced that and have figured out how to make it work in our family. And so it's been, that's probably the bravest thing.
Well, congratulations on being brave, because now you've really stepped into who you are and what your soul's here to do. And you have no limitations now.
Yep. Nothing can stop me.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for being on the show, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your story. What's the best way that people can get in touch with you or follow you, or where do you hang out?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter under Sherry Samuels.
Okay.
You can find me on Facebook under Chrysalid Transformations. That's the name of my business. And sometimes people are like, what is this Chrysalid Transformations? What does that mean? And the chrysalid, it's where the butterfly is, like where the butterfly is before it comes out. And it's my belief that that's where we are. And we're all in this beautiful place, and we come out and we can grow and thrive.
Okay, and I'll make sure I put that in the show notes.
Oh, so Chrysalid, or Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you can find me.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you so much for giving your time today to help people, other brave girls that are out there that are going to take a nugget here and there from what you had to say, whether it was around practices to center yourself, or your brave story. So thank you so much. And I just wish you the best of luck as you're out in the world and teaching other people how to connect to their inner voice. I think that's beautiful. And I think that you have a gift. I think you have a great story. And I think that, making that decision to invest in yourself was probably the best thing that you ever did. And that's just beautiful. And so many people don't do that. And so I'm glad you're out of the rabbit hole. And you're on the other side to talk about it. And I think that's just going to inspire people so much that life is about play and curiosity and trusting yourself. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.